everybody. And Dr. Rochon, it's so nice to have you to join us. And I think back the first time that I met you was at your inauguration. I had the pleasure of attending your inauguration back in April 5th, 2019. I'd only been a president here at the college for a couple of months, but Dr. Chappelle and I traveled over there and got to see you inaugurated as the fourth president. I guess you joined USI in July of 2018, and you had already served 8 years as provost before that. So
yes, sir.
Yep. Wonderful event. And I want to tell you, I took notes during your speech. Okay.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to quote one back to you. And I think it's very appropriate today is that you said during your comments that the one thing that I have learned is that when people make a choice to spend time with you, that is a gift. And so we acknowledge today that you're giving us the gift of your time today, and looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Got a few other things I'll say about you before I turn it over to you, and give folks a little bit more of a background on you. You, during your time as provost too, I think you were part of establishing and improving the second doctoral program in educational leadership at USI. I understand that your academic and professional careers focused on advocating for educational excellence, access and equity and equality. You've taught classes on the history of American education, culturally relevant and responsive teaching practices within pre-K through grade 12 schools, and organizational leadership within higher education settings. You came from Buffalo State in Buffalo, New York, I understand, and you were the director and co-founder of the Research Center for Cultural Diversity and Community Renewal at the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse. Dr. Rochon joins us today, earned his bachelor's degree at Tuskegee University and master's and doctoral degrees from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. So one last comment, part of my notes during your inauguration, and definitely enjoyed the combined choirs, the Tuskegee University Golden Voices, as well as the USI's choir. And you ended their performances by saying, when we talk about issues of diversity and collaboration, these students, they're showing us how it's done. And so I was really inspired by all of that. So you made an impact on me very quickly as I joined the community. And we welcome you today to be a part of Henderson Community College's Black History Mondays. And so welcome, and you have it.
Oh, wow. Man, I'm a bit embarrassed. So thank you, Dr. Warren. Thank you so much for the kind introduction and the kind words. It's so funny, I'm so used to Zoom, and I know how to navigate it pretty well. And Teams I don't use very often, so I'm assuming that you all can hear me okay. I'm hopeful that's the case. Is that, Michelle? Are we good?
We are good. You're
okay.
Good to go.
Okay, wonderful. Well, listen, let me just begin by telling you all that I am both honored and humbled to be invited to speak to you on Black History Month Monday. Dr. Chappelle, she was so kind to reach out to me and invited me to come out and speak with you all. And I'm not going to, speak for a very long time. I know that a monologue can be a bit boring and a bit, oh gosh, it's hard to do it on virtual, when you don't see, people. And right now, all I see are initials, so this is kind of funny not to even see faces at this point. But I wanted to just, let you all know that I'm extremely thankful for this opportunity. I've been living in the Evansville area, excuse me, with my wife and my now adult children. We moved here in 2010, and we have become, I think, really sincere, authentic members of this community. It has been actually an honor and a privilege to be here and work here. I get to Kentucky quite often. Of course, we don't live very far from one another, and I'm very thankful for the Henderson community being a part of this today as well. I'm going to send Dr. Chappelle a link. I wrote just a very, very short essay regarding Black history and its appreciation that I think we should all take into consideration. And if you want to, it can be part of your reading. It's a very, very short essay. If you're having a difficult time sleeping at night, you can pull it out and I will put you to sleep. I promise. It's better than any kind of medication. So if you get a chance, review it. I would tell you right now, the overall theme of it is collaboration, something I really believe in. In fact, in the essay, I'm talking about this project called the Folded Map Project. And a woman of African descent in Chicago, Illinois, where I grew up, engaged in a project where she was looking at zip codes and looking at addresses all across the city. Chicago is it's pretty much structured like many other cities across the nation in a grid format. And what she did, she looked at addresses with common square footage, common structures that really kind of mirror one another on both the south side of Chicago and also far north side of Chicago. And these two communities are extremely different in so many ways, but the overwhelming component of difference is race. The south side area, southeast side is overwhelmingly African American, and the far north side is overwhelmingly white. And the things that I wanted people to see and understand about this Folded Map project is that the resemblance of the addresses that mirror one another with regard to numbers is really where it stops. With regard to aesthetics, with regard to resources, with regard to opportunities of infrastructure and investment, you'll see vast differences in these two communities. This Folded Map project is actually bringing Black people and white people together to talk about ways in which we can bring more equitable resources to the South Side. And the thing that I love about this project, and I encourage you to look it up, is this young scholar, this young journalist, this photojournalist and activist is actually creating a healthy dialogue between people that don't know one another, but they are generating this interest in one another with regard to who they are, where they live, and the resource base that they have. And I think it's important because something I'm always talking about at the beginning, middle, and end of the day are children. You know, what are children learning about our treatment of one another? What are children learning about about each other across these defined and also clandestine boundaries? What are children learning with regard to their own future as it pertains to building relationships with other people that don't look like them? And what are children learning with regard to how they should treat one another when they become young adults, when they become policymakers? You know, what are we currently teaching children in Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio? And I go, you know, it just goes on beyond that, of course. And so I am always driven by this because I really believe that children truly deserve our best effort to treat each other humanely, with great civility and also respect. And so this is my motivation with regard to the work that I'm doing and really how I engage in this daily work. Dr. Chappelle, she asked me if I would please describe to you all about my journey to the presidency to give you a better sense of what I am doing at USI and also things that I have faced as an African-American man. And, you know, I felt a little sheepish about this because I'm thinking to myself, you know, no one really is interested in this story. But she indicated that you may find a few nuggets that are worthy of your time. So let me just share with you all. I'm going to take a sip of water first. Excuse me. Let me just share with you all that I am a product, a very proud product of the South Side of Chicago, born and raised on the South Side. My mom and dad, they bought our first house on the South Side, Southeast Side, and it's a small home that I still visit periodically, just to go by and see neighbors. And it's amazing when you look at where you grew up, and things just seem so different when you become an adult from your own lands. So I grew up on the South Side. I ended up going to Tuskegee, as Dr. Warren had indicated, and going to Tuskegee actually changed my life. It was not an institution I wanted to attend at first. I really wanted to go to Iowa State because I wanted to swim. I was a swimmer in high school. That's all I could really do with regard to athletics. And I became, as far as I was concerned, pretty good at it. My mother, on the other hand, was very, very pragmatic and candid with me and indicated that I was a good competitor, with a lot of my friends because we didn't grow up with swimming. I took to water very easily and became, relatively good. But knowing what my mom was communicating to me is that there were so many other kids that grew up with swimming since diapers, and I was not ready for that kind of competition. She really wanted me to go to Tuskegee University. She wanted me to find out more about my own history, more about my own identity, and actually began to understand how significant that history was with regard to my own maturation process becoming an adult. I will tell you all in short, Tuskegee University changed my life. Going to rural Alabama, a small historically Black college, and to major in animal sciences, which I was really interested in at the time, really taught me some lessons immediately. For the first time, I saw African-American farmers. I didn't know Black people even farmed, growing up in Chicago. I had never seen a Black farmer before. I saw for the first time Black professors, Black clergy, overwhelmingly everywhere. Saw Black police officers. My father was a cop in Chicago, when I was growing up. I actually was able to witness a Black mayor for the first time in my life, going to Tuskegee. So there were all these firsts for me with regard to being a young 17-year-old kid leaving Chicago and going into this very rural space and giving me some new ideas about what it was that I could potentially do with my life. I want to fast forward, just kind of give you a couple more examples about Tuskegee that really changed me. I ended up getting a work study job working in the library. My assignment was the archives. I was never a library person growing up, never. My mom, she would just push me and my siblings, into the library, made us go. It was almost like going to church for me. I appreciate God, but when I was a kid, I didn't want to go to church as often as my grandmother wanted me to be there. But I ended up doing it and found out that it became really a part of my growth, my development. But going to Tuskegee and working in the archives, I began to study all these historical figures like Booker T. Washington and others, Benjamin Mays and others, who really had an impact on our nation. And going there and learning about these individuals again began to help me understand what possibilities were out there for me as a young adult. Going to Tuskegee also, I remember my freshman year, Dr. Warren, I can remember this vividly. I went to the commencement exercises in May, and one of my big brothers, my mentor at Tuskegee, was graduating, and I stayed there for that commencement exercise. And I remember watching all these candidates walk across the stage, but at the beginning of the ceremony, there were these individuals who were walking across the stage with these beautiful gowns on. I had no idea what it was called, academic regalia. And they had these bars on their sleeves, also known as chevrons. And again, I didn't know what that was. I just knew they looked good. And the president and or the provost didn't know what role they played, but they were reading these long titles associated with each of these individuals. Now, I will tell you, I did not understand everything I witnessed, but what I witnessed gave me such uplift, gave me such joy, and also gave me this idea that whatever they were getting, whatever they were doing, I wanted a part of that. I called my mom and I told my mother about this commencement. And my mother didn't go to college, nor did my father. And I described everything. I told my mom, I said, Mama, I am going to get one of those degrees. I don't know what a PhD is, but it was awesome. I tell you all that because of what exposure can do to a community, what exposure can do to a child, regardless of race. Children being exposed to other kinds of optics, other kinds of constructs, other kinds of opportunities will open the eyes to creativity and possibility like never before. And so I want to ask you all as an audience to be thinking about that. You have children in your lives. You have your own biological children. You may have adopted a child. You may have a neighbor who has children. We have grandchildren, we have nieces, we have nephews, we have children in our lives on a daily basis. And I'm asking you again with regard to a challenge during Black History Month, what are we doing with children to expose them to something new, something different? I'll tell you, Tuskegee, even though it was a predominantly Black institution, it exposed me to things I had never, ever thought of or dreamt about. And it gave me this impetus. It gave me this sense of understanding that I had purpose, possibility, but most importantly, that I was worthy of both of those. And so again, what are you doing with regard to providing children with an opportunity? Let me fast forward with a couple more examples, and then I promised Michelle I would stop and engage you all with some Q&A, and we can have a discussion. One other thing that I would tell you that occurred to me is that it began to teach me about this notion of historical importance. Now, going to Tuskegee, I think I told you that I had been exposed to quite a bit, but also I was learning quite a bit. And I'll tell you right now, not just learning about African American history, but learning about other aspects of our nation, and the kinds of work that we have done historically, both together and also in segregated spaces. And so, the thing that I want to encourage any student that's on this call is to take your major very seriously. Take the studies that you're engaged with your faculty members, those men and women who are working hard to teach you, take it very seriously. And you understand that there have been so many people that came before us to provide us with this opportunity to go to school, to go to Henderson, to go and study and actually explore, what it is that we want to do with our lives. And quite often, I'll tell you that we take those things for granted, not understanding that this really defined time and opportunity is a gift. It is really once in a lifetime. I can tell you right now, being a university president, I don't have nearly the kind of time that I had when I was a student to read, to study, to critique, and to develop. I'm on a treadmill that moves so incredibly fast each and every day to keep this campus thriving. And so I promise you, students, if you're listening, that the kind of time that you have right now, the autonomy, the independence, the ability to pursue your studies the way you do, it will never come back this way again. So engage fully. Many of you are paying your own tuition. Some of you even transferred to the University of Southern Indiana. And that seamless transfer allows you to go even further with your intellectual aspirations. And the question I'm going to always ask you, what are you doing to make sure that you are ready for the world? Not just economically, but to come in and transform your community, your neighborhood, our nation, and the globe. These components with regard to how we work together and engage in this work is such an important piece of who you are as a student right now. So Tuskegee, I'm gonna wrap this piece up, is extremely important to me. It opened doors for me. It gave me a sense of purpose and passion. It gave me a sense of understanding the significance of Black contributions all across our nation. It gave me a sense of understanding what sacrifice would have to look like as I was, kind of ebbing and flowing and moving through, these different kinds of mazes as I was, developing, to become a university president one day. I will share one other quick story with you, and then I'm gonna shut this down for a second. I recall also the most important piece going to the University of Illinois from Tuskegee to pursue my graduate degrees. I went to Illinois to pursue a master's degree in reproductive physiology in the College of Agriculture. And I was the only African American in my lab. And I remember feeling out of place because I just left this very, very dominant Black community, to go into a very, very dominant white community. And I felt like a fish in the Atlantic Ocean, all this water that was choppy, that was turbulent, and also a bit confusing. And I was trying to find my way to navigate and to reconcile this new endeavor. And I recall vividly, again, the kinds of people that came to my aid. I met other Black students on campus that taught me the ins and outs of Champaign, Illinois. But I will tell you one of the most important relationships I had going into graduate school for my master's degree was with my advisor, Dr. Janice Barr. Dr. Barr is a beautiful person. She's still alive. She's still thriving. She's still doing some amazing research at Illinois. She's a white woman. She is someone who gave me a chance to come into this esteemed research institution to conduct research and pursue my master's degree. But the thing that I loved about her most was that she really worked hard to make sure that every single student in her laboratory would be treated fairly, would be treated equally, would be treated in a way in which they would be respected. And she also expected that we all bring respect to the laboratory as well each day. I tell you this story because I need everyone to understand that I believe Black history is American history. I believe that Black history is something that we should all know. I think that Black history is something that we should celebrate, that we should encompass, we should wrap our arms around. I think that Black history is something that predominantly white communities should really run towards so they can understand the contributions of African Americans to our nation, to the development of our nation. You know, how we got to be what we are today is such an important piece. And without understanding this, we're doing ourselves a disservice. I want us to understand Black history also because you'll begin to really understand the kinds of passion and purpose that Black folk have sought after over centuries of time here in the US. You know, Dr. Warren, I'll tell you, sir, I've taught courses in this area, and I remember vividly asking my students to do me a favor. I said, I need you to very quickly articulate the names of five athletes that live in the US. 5 athletes, name them for me. And Dr. Warren, you'll be surprised. They can name them just like that, easily. I say then, okay, name 5 entertainers in the US. And guess what, Dr. Warren? Name them, just like that. Then I ask my students, name 5 Black historians. Name 5 Black theologians. Name 5 Black poets. Name 5 Black scholars across the academy. Name 5 Black surgeons who have contributed to the field of medicine and or science. And guess what, Dr. Warren? Folks are struggling. Folks are really struggling now. And so, I don't blame the students. I don't think, you and I are educators. We will never blame the students. What we can do, though, is really kind of reflect on what we've been teaching, or I should say, not teaching our students. And so, I kind of go back to this because there's so much we don't know about each other. We look at each other's faces, we look at each other's, skin color, hair texture, eye color, and in my case, no hair. We look at that and we make assumptions that we know each other based upon these characteristics. And I want us to really kind of pull back, go in a reverse mode and understand that I don't know you just because I see you, that I have no idea who you love. I have no idea who you live next to. I have no idea about your academic interest, your passion, your purpose. I have no idea who your children are, if you have children, based upon how you look. Now, at one point in our nation, it was more predictable. But the exciting piece now is that we are in a space in our nation where people are beginning to go across racial lines, these boundaries that have been defined for us, and finding true interest in other people. And for me, students in particular, this is one of the charges that a president like Dr. Warren and myself want to charge you with. And I speak on his behalf because of his nice introduction to me. We want a different kind of relationship for you. I can tell you all this right here. I know for a fact, the way I grew up on the south side of Chicago in a very segregated community, I wanted my children to have a different kind of experience, to see other people, to learn other languages, to travel in other spaces and do it safely, do it with authenticity, with respect, with curiosity. I want them to experience things that their mother and I never got to experience when we were their age. That is our goal, to make sure that we're doing better by you and for you, because we're asking you all to take the baton from us at some point and actually to understand the significance of your possibility, of your ability to really go out and do something special. So Dr. Warren, I'm going to stop there and just see if we can engage in some dialogue with the audience. I know the time moves fast. It's already almost 30 minutes after the hour, but I'm hopeful that people are understanding what it is that I'm trying to communicate about our responsibility to be intentional to go out and meet other people, our ability to be intentional with regard to picking up a book and reading other kinds of history, our ability to recognize the significance of maintaining a very civil and respectful tone with others, because people, our children are watching. They're observing us. They're listening to us. And they do not come out of their mother's wombs racist. They don't. We teach them racism. We teach them hate. We teach them impatience. We teach them the lack of tolerance by virtue of how we behave. And so if we truly do love children, let's examine our own weaknesses, our own shortcomings, our own fears, and let's not replicate that in our children. Let's give them the ability to go out and do amazing, to go out and transform our nation and the globe. Let's give our children the ability to understand the significance of Black history and its gifts, and leave that conversation understanding that this is truly American history. So I hope this is resonating well. I'll stop there, sir, and see if there's any questions or any comments. Oh, listen, I even welcome concerns. I welcome a challenge. I'm an academic, so I love the opportunity for people to say, listen, you know what? I'm scratching my head on a couple of your points, sir. So if that's the case, let's talk about that as well. So Dr. Warren, Michelle, Dr. Chappelle, I'll stop there.
Yeah, we got a couple questions, but I want to start off. You didn't really touch on this, but you talk about how your role as being the first African-American president for USI, how that experience at Tuskegee has helped you being the president of a predominantly white institution.
Well, thanks for the question. Being at USI, I'll be very candid with you. There have been some bumps in the road within community, within Southwest Indiana. And when I say bumps in the road, we have witnessed and experienced some racism, without question, my family and I. But overwhelmingly, I'll tell you that the community has responded and received us with such open arms, with amazing open arms and support. But I'm also here to tell you that, sometimes our students of color have faced some unfortunate conversations and or behavior from people within the community as well. I've learned this right here. Racism is a byproduct of our nation. It is truly. A lot of folks don't want to hear that, but it's true. I've learned this from my parents, that one cannot allow someone else's faults or shortcomings to derail you from your goals and to become a servant leader. And so, do I get frustrated at times? Without question. Do I get, down about some things that I see and hear? Without question. But Dr. Chappelle, I'll tell you, I come from an amazing lineage of ancestors, who were enslaved. Women and men who actually worked on fields from sunup to sundown, picking cotton, providing services, working for free for centuries. I'm a proud descendant of these people. So when I read, slave narratives, when I read the kinds of history that I've been blessed to have on my bookshelves, within the archives, when I'm able to read these pieces and understand that these individuals who came long before me endured such horrific outcomes, I'll tell you, I have no business giving up, none whatsoever. It is because of the women and men that came before me that I'm able to occupy this seat as president. And I don't take that for granted. I don't take it for granted for one moment. I understand the significance of what people endured. There's an amazing memorial in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a lynching memorial, and I encourage any and everyone, if you ever get down south, to stop in Montgomery. This is time worthy. And in this memorial, it's all about lynching across America. It talks about the numbers of women and men and children who were lynched because they were Black. And so going through this memorial and spending quality time and reading, about the numbers of women and men and children who were lynched in Kentucky and in Indiana, give me a sense of purpose and drive, and also understanding that I have no business quitting, none whatsoever. I am grateful that that I am able to read and study and appreciate and respect this history. Again, this is part of who we are as a nation. Is it shameful? Is it sad? Without question, but it is our history. And these are all of our people. You know, one of the saddest parts about that memorial is when you come across, you know, these jars of soil that have been excavated, you know, to better understand the location of where people were lynched. And then one of the saddest pieces is that several of those jars of soil, when it has, you know, the space for your name, the name that's on some of those jars says unknown. Now think about that. Giving birth to a child, and one day that child be lynched, and no one even know their name. No one able to recognize and pay homage and respect to that individual. Think about that. Think about you being wiped off the face of the earth. Any of you, across race. And your parents and your grandparents, your great-grandparents. Everyone knowing who you are, but those beyond that, those who are in contemporary spaces, have no clue. Think about the power of you yourself being taken away and no one ever being able to cite your name again. So this history right here, Michelle, Dr. Chappelle, it gives me strength, it gives me uplift, it gives me motivation to really work hard to make sure that we are working as effectively as possible to bring everyone to the table to talk about ways in which we can be collaborative, we can be respectful, we can be civil, uplifting, and most importantly, move our institutions in a direction where our students will do better than all that we have done historically and even today. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, Dr. Rochon, that was very powerful. I was able to go on a civil rights tour a couple of years ago, and that museum or what you talked about was not there, but I'm hoping one day I can go back down there. I'm gonna go ahead and start giving people opportunity to ask questions. Joe, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joe Herding. Thank you for coming and speaking to us. You touched on a subject I think about a lot lately. I've got two daughters, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Now, I grew up on the southeast side of Evansville. I graduated Bosse High School in 1999. I've since moved to Newburgh, Indiana. And when I drop them off at daycare and school every morning, I see zero to very little diversity. And I worry because I didn't know at the time, but I grew up in a very diverse culture and atmosphere. And as an adult now, I know how much that has shaped and changed my life as a person. And I worry about my kids not getting that same kind of experience, even more so now with the pandemic, because we can't go anywhere. They're seeing their people at school and they're seeing their parents. What do you suggest to a father who wants to get their kids more involved in diversity I can do?
Yeah, listen, Joe, thank you for your question, first of all. Well, I'll tell you right now, my kids grew up a lot like your kids are growing up right now. We moved here, they were in middle school, living in Newburgh, Indiana. And I'll tell you one of the unfortunate pieces that, my children growing up never had African-American teachers, never had Latino teachers. They only had from what we understand, were predominantly white teachers in every one of their grades. And that was a hard thing to reconcile for myself and my wife, the reality of that, them not being able to see other kinds of examples of educational providers. And so I know exactly what you're saying. One of the things I would definitely encourage, sir, is, when you get your kids and you all get on the road, you go on trips, Louisville, Memphis, Indianapolis, even here in Evansville, I want to encourage you to open your kids' eyes to museums and other institutions that will reflect diverse cultures, that will give them a sense of appreciation and respect of different people. I want to encourage you to make sure that you're visiting different institutions and agencies, even here in Evansville. Listen, it's interesting. I think this is such an important question. I think this is an important piece because I recall vividly, I was living in Buffalo, New York, living in the outskirts of Buffalo. And I remember going to the grocery store one day, and my wife and I and our kids were very, very young, and we were just one of maybe two other families within our neighborhood who were African American. But I recall going to the grocery store, and this little girl, she had to be no more than 4 or 5 years of age, Joe, and this child, I was standing in line waiting to pay for my groceries, and this beautiful little girl, she was a little white girl with her white mother. She pointed at me and said, "Mommy, look, he's brown." And the mother was mortified. She grabbed the little girl, and she shushed her down and told the little girl, don't ever say that. And I was a bit shocked, by the response, because the child was making an observation. The child was right. She said, "Listen, I see a brown man. I don't see brown people often. Mommy, I see a brown man." And so I think what happened really for the child is not all of a sudden the child feels like she did something wrong. The child could even potentially even fear someone that looks like me, a black male. And so, again, I'll tell you, we're trying to be responsive and sensitive to people, and we're not allowing children to be curious, to understand and investigate what it is that they see. Children know they see color. We all see color. People tell me all the time, "I don't see race." Well, I don't believe that's true. I saw Dr. Warren come on the screen a little while ago, and he looks nothing like me. I look nothing like him, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's nothing wrong with acknowledging that we are different. We may have the same heart, the same passion, the same compulsive, habits that are good or bad, but we do not look alike. And by virtue of that, in many ways, we, in fact, have a different kind of history. And so I just think that we need to be cognizant, sensitive, to recognize that these histories are relevant and they need to be respected and celebrated. That's an important piece. So, Joseph, I hope that I'm giving you a sense of empowerment, sir. I promise you this also, there's nothing you're going to do that's perfect. Children come out of their mother's wombs perfect. We as adults, we dummy them down. They come out at genius level and we dummy them down. So I'm going to encourage you to find ways in which you can think about and reflect on your own rearing, things that worked well for you with regard to race. I ask you to think about where you are with regard to your own comfort levels with regard to race, and begin to have discussions with your children much earlier. So they will appreciate what's going on. They will appreciate the fact that there's a rainbow of humaneness out there that they could engage in and contribute to. That's huge as well. So let me stop there. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the next question, Edwin.
Sorry, it's hard to take your hand down and then unmute. Hi, hello. I am the Hispanic Latino recruitment specialist here at Henderson Community College. So of course I'm brand new to the family and everything, but I really appreciated you talking and speaking about, especially being from Southside Chicago. We all know Southside Chicago. I grew up going to Chicago and I visited Southside. Most of the time, just my parents were very cautious about me going by myself. And so I love the area. It's very Black influenced and very, family owned. It's obviously there's some rough parts of it, but I did love it. And I loved the cultural experience I got from it, riding the bus and just being kind of like blending in versus asking my dad to take the chauffeur there and stuff like that. So I also love that, you brought up the fact that name 5 Black athletes or name 5, athletes or any kind of like program where it's mostly Black dominated, but then you realize that there's Sojourner Truth, who is a huge influence, a woman activist. You have Maya Angelou, who is one of the best poets of all time, and may she rest in peace. And I just figured that, going to Catholic schools, I would know theologians that were Black. And I went through the list on Google when you were speaking about it. And I went to Memorial High School in Evansville, Indiana, and then I went to Holy Name here in Henderson County, Kentucky. And I think it's honestly so shocking that I don't know any Black theologians or any people in the Black community who influence Catholicism or anything like that, because a lot of Black people that our friends find, family friends of ours, are Catholic as well. And yeah, I don't know anybody who's influenced Catholicism or any theology, or I studied theology all my life until I went to the University of Louisville. So that was a big shock to me that I couldn't name one person who did that. And I went to a private Catholic school education. I also really would like to ask this question. As a Black man, I took a class at University of Louisville, part of the, I don't know if you know, you're familiar with U of L, but there's a Pan-African Studies course and a Pan-African Studies degree that you can major in. And I took some classes for it just to kind of honestly be culturally aware. As a Black man, have you faced, let's say, certain challenges just to become somebody who you want to become, as for just being a Black man, being, you know, judged beforehand, people assuming who you are, any kind of like racial injustice? Because I know that when I studied it, we read a whole article and a whole paper about how it's called, I think, The Invisible Black Man, and how you feel invisible and how you already feel like people already know who you are, but they don't really know you, but just by assuming stereotypes and prejudice.
Wow. Edwin, that's a lot of questions. Man, well, first of all, thank you for your feedback. You know, listen, you asked a very complex question, sir. You know, so I appreciate, you know, where you are coming from and what you're expressing. You know, I'll tell you, I meant what I said. When we all read the histories of our ancestors, I believe that, you know, that we're going to learn a lot more about ourselves that gives us strength and gives us this sense of direction. And also, you know, kind of gives us this sense of understanding. You know, Dr. Warner mentioned my inauguration, and I remember also, you know, talking a little bit about freedom fighters. I wanted the audience to understand that the Underground Railroad actually came through this part of Indiana, right through Newburgh. I wanted people to understand that there were, you know, white women and men who took their lives in their hands, you know, by acknowledging the fact that freedom needed to happen for enslaved people. You know, I wanted the audience to understand that it was because of collaboration that Harriet Tubman and other soldiers were so successful at finding freedom, you know, for Black people to leave plantations. See, Edwin, no one does this alone. No one. You know, I didn't become a president of a university by myself. I've had so many mentors and so many teachers and so many family members and even strangers who have lifted me up and loved on me and guided me and directed me, prayed for me, and still serve as counsel for me. You know, so I just want to encourage you that if you are in a position sometimes where you're feeling isolated or feeling as if, you know, you're not receiving the kinds of respect that you know you deserve, I want to encourage you to go back to that foundational circle of trust, people that love, respect, and uplift you for who you are, your own identity, understand who you are with every core of your being. Those are the people that I rely upon. You know, that they keep me motivated. They keep me to understand that humanity is so much more prevalent than hate. And listen, I'm not saying that, you know, just to be fluffy. I mean that with my heart. I truly believe that we have more humaneness in us than we have hate around us. Now hate penetrates, hate hurts, hate is real, and hate is dangerous. But I do not believe that it is the prevailing characteristic, you know, within our neighborhoods or within our communities. I really believe that we have the potential of doing something transformative and special. You know, that the killing of George Floyd taught me a great deal as I began to watch the marches that were organized and peaceful. When you saw the numbers of people across race coming together and holding hands and recognizing that an injustice had occurred. You know, so I just want to encourage you, sir, you know, to not be discouraged by those rough or down days or difficult days that we will all experience. And sometimes because being people of color, we may in fact see them more often because of the structure of our community. Now, let me flip one other thing for you, please. And as I talk about this, and I need people to understand this right here as well, that one of the jobs we have to do is understand that children across race learn hate. Children across race learn discrimination. Children across race learn to disassociate themselves with the other. One of the greatest examples I can give you is, look at how, we are currently, still treating, members of the LGBTQ plus community. What do we do with regard to how we see people, how we treat people by virtue of their own gender identity, their own sexual orientation? And, you mentioned, growing up in a Catholic school. I went to Catholic school as well. And I'll tell you right now that I can tell you this, and I'm not disparaging the church, but I did not learn anything really healthy with regard to developing a relationship with a gay man or a woman who identifies as lesbian. I did not going to elementary or secondary school. And I spent both those periods of my life in Catholic schools. So again, we are products of our teaching. We're products of what we see, what we read, what we hear. And I'm asking you to help your students to understand that there's more out there to learn. And this work is hard, it's complex, it's difficult, and many times it's lonely. Many times it's lonely. So I hope that kind of gives you a sense, sir, of what I believe that, we can do as individuals to create a more harmonious opportunity, even if we are targets of hate and discrimination ourselves.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That's very accurate. And I love how the fact that you brought up the LGBTQ community, because I myself identify with that, and I'm a gay male, and I'm also gay Afro-Latino. So of course I've had racial slurs thrown at me. People have been very awful to me since growing up, but with the LGBTQ community, 100% agree with you. With Catholicism, I was actually not out in high school, and I was told to read the Catholic school's view on gay marriage and homosexuality by my professor, and that was a very almost malicious way of calling me out for being gay in the closet at Memorial, and it was really hurtful to me. And I still remember exactly how it happened and how I had to read out loud what the view of it was. And I forgave her a long time ago for doing that to me, but it definitely was hurtful, and it definitely made me realize that we still have a long way to go with that. So thank you so much.
No, thank you, sir. May I say one other thing to you, please?
Yeah, it's 100%. Go ahead.
The other thing I wanted to contribute is, just to hear you be able to say that publicly, during this call, is a very different place than where I was, even as a student at Tuskegee. I will tell you that growing up, sir, and I'm not proud of this at all, but I can tell you, growing up, I would not identify myself as someone who targeted gay people with any kind of hate or disdain. But I would also tell you that my silence as a young man, not addressing other men who were, in fact, very overt with their discriminatory tone, made me complicit. And this is what this is when I say it's going to take courage, for us to understand the significance that everyone on this call is worthy of respect, worthy of kindness, worthy of civility, worthy of a voice, worthy to be listened to. We're all worthy. And so I just appreciate you, speaking your truth to me this afternoon. And also I just appreciate, everyone maybe considering our own discomfort and how we got there and what we can do to eradicate that discomfort that brings harm to others. So I'll stop there, but thank you so much for your kind words and most importantly your affirming of your own identity, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Thank you, Dr. Rochon. I see Dr. Lewis. She has her hand up. Go ahead.
Hi, Dr. Rochon. It's Lavanya Lewis. It's been a while since we've spoken or seen each other. I hope you and the family are doing well, so I definitely wanted to get on here and say hi since it's been some time.
Lavanya! I'm sorry. I had to do a shout out. I'm sorry.
It's so great to see your face, and I want to thank you for sharing your story and your journey with us. Here at HCC, we are a small community college, but we're powerful. And I
There you go.
think
That's right.
that
You are. Yeah, you all are powerful.
with every story we hear, though, it does bring new perspective, and hopefully open our minds to new things. You had touched on something briefly about your kids, your two little ones, with growing up here in Southern Indiana, and knowing that they did not encounter any African American instructors or teachers.
Yeah.
I have to say that speaks to me as well. So I actually only had one African American teacher until I got to USI. And then I was able to interact with you and Miss Christy Baker, who I believe is still there. And I think Miss Johnson is no longer there. But I just know how powerful that was for me to actually be in an environment in higher education at that point, and being able to see others who look like me. There is a lot of importance in that, as you're talking about how kids and students, they, at any point of your life, you're learning. But also you spoke to how it's important to what we are instilling in our kids and our students. And so I just think that that was important to bring up because, you had to also talk about having your own discomfort, right? That is somewhat of a discomfort of knowing I don't see many that look like me, or I may not get to interact with many individuals who look like me. But, at the end of the day, I think your point of it all being, that we all can work together and be harmonious and be open to the fact of learning, even if it is outside of your comfort zone, is very important. So thank you so much. And it's great seeing you once again.
Well, hey, Lavanya, I'm getting old, so I tell folks it's an honor to be seen and not viewed. So I am just thankful that I'm on this side of the soil and able to contribute. But thank you for your kind words. I will tell you though, kind of go back to Dr. Chappelle's question, about my experiences as being the first African American president. I would tell you that I work extremely hard to make sure that my white students on this campus, I love them as hard as I love students of color. And I'm excited about them also seeing another example. I'm the first. And so many of my students, they come from communities where there are not many African Americans, if any. And then all of a sudden they see, the president being a person of African descent. And so to be able to develop relationships with them, listen to their stories, learn more about their families in these rural counties in Indiana has been my pleasure. But also they get to hear about my story, about Chicago, and I get to dispel some of these untruths, these myths and notions about the South Side, about urban communities. And all of a sudden, these students are finding out how much we have in common. But they're finding out that, that laughter, levity is such an important component of our relationship. They're also finding out that listening is such an important piece of growing and developing. And so I'll tell you right now, I pour into my majority group students without question. I pour into them intentionally. I want them to not only leave here with a healthy relationship with me, but also pursuing additional relationships. These are going to be future leaders, future supervisors, future directors and vice presidents and presidents and CEOs. And I want them to understand that there is talent across race, and that they have to be intentional with regard to bringing diverse voices and diverse perspectives to their corporation, because it's going to only make it stronger. So I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you so much.
Dr. Rochon, it looked like there's no more hands raised. I just want to thank you for taking your time out of today. I really appreciate everything that you has done, and your joke early with me today, and all the encouraging words that you said today. I really appreciate it. So with that being said, I'm gonna let Dr. Warren get the last word.
Well, let me get one word in before Dr. Warren goes, because once he, because the president is supposed to be the last one to speak. Okay, all right. And I'm not president there. I'm president at USI. So let me, Dr. Warren stole my thunder. But I will tell you all this real quickly. I'm a mama's boy. If you don't know what a mama's boy is, go to the Webster Dictionary, look it up, and you'll see my picture with a big smile on my face, boy. My mother's in heaven now, but everything my mother did is the reason I am. I will tell you this right here. And when my mom died, she taught me the significance, Dr. Warren, of time. And this is, I really believe this. You all on this call today, have given me an amazing gift by sharing your time with me. It's been respectful, it's been uninterrupted, and it's been engaging. I want to thank you all at Henderson for allowing me to be a part of your Monday. I want to thank you for allowing me to speak my story, and I want to thank you for making me a member of your community today. And I know this right here, Dr. Warren, sir, I want to thank you specifically also for your leadership, your kindness, your engagement, but also, you came to my inauguration. I mean, that's so kind of you, sir. So I just want to thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. And Dr. Chappelle, I thank you also, ma'am. So I'll stop there, sir.
Thank
All
you.
I can say is your enthusiasm and optimism is contagious. And I'll end with a quote that's an inscription on that sculpture that's over my shoulder. It says, "Fear and hate are no match for love and optimism." And I truly appreciate your optimism. Little known fact there, Don Gummer was the sculptor, and Meryl Streep is his wife. So didn't know if you knew that little tidbit of history there, but walk by that statue often, but the sculpture often. It's been a joy having you today, and I could just spend hours listening to you. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir. Hey, listen, when we get past this pandemic, let's you and I go out to lunch, okay?
Let's do it.
Hey, and I'll bring that. Hey, listen, no. I'm gonna bring Dr. Chappelle's credit card.
Oh, that'll work. Okay, we can do that.
That's funny.
That's on me.
Not. Also, please don't forget the survey. It is in the chat, and you guys have a nice evening.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.